What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Triple Play Fantasy YouTube channel. We got another mock draft for you coming on this mock draft Monday, specifically a 12-team PPR Dynasty rookie draft. That's right, just rookies today, as we're going through 4 rounds of the top rookies in your draft and where you think we should be taking them. And as you know, I'm always joined by my co-host Kevin at @theboys_22. Kev, how are we feeling about this rookie draft today?
I'm doing good. I'm a little worried about you. I had to teach you some things today that I'm a little worried about. But I think it'd be good. I think it's coming down to it. Combine's coming up. So in 7 days, as long as it kind of rolls, I think we're going to get an idea of where these rookies are, draft capital measurements. We're going to see how small Rondale Robinson really is because he's 5'11". There's no way Rondale Robinson is 5'11". So I think it's exciting to see what kind of player values are.
Yeah, and Kev, I want to be honest with you. I felt like I was up all night, like studying for chemistry tests in college. Like I learned so much of the rookie pool that I did not know just from the last pretty much day or so, just cramming and learning these guys. And I feel a lot better going into this rookie draft than I did a day ago. I feel like I know a lot of these guys and kind of what people are perceiving them to be. And it's exciting when you actually get to dive in on all of these players and you can kind of put your stakes with who you think is going to be good before they get drafted, obviously, to where they're going to go. So I'm pumped, man. I know this is just like a walk in the park for you, but for someone
Welcome to Debbie, sir. Welcome to Debbie.
I'm in the dark side now. So without further ado, let's go ahead. I'm going to share our screen, and we're going to get into our mock draft here. 4 rounds live here. Our buddy ain't done yet. Jacob done with the first pick. And let me mute it so you guys don't have to hear that noise. Actually, I don't think you can.
Yeah, we can. We can definitely hear that noise.
It says unmute. All right, mute.
All right. Oh, look at Jacob going off with Treylon Burks at the 101. I will say, I jumped into a rookie mock recently. It was Superflex, and a quarterback didn't get taken to the 107. And if you're looking at you're on the clock now, it goes Burks and London. I think that, London is a juicy pick that early too. I think we're starting to see people are still know how to value the quarterbacks yet until the draft. I think that's the number one thing that we've been seeing.
Now, this is an interesting spot here because I could go Garrett Wilson and get another top 3 consensus wide receiver here, or I could get my favorite running back at this spot. I'm not tempted to take a quarterback here, Kev.
No.
I think just because there are some running backs that I like a little bit later, that obviously, I love Isaiah Spiller. I'm going to go Garrett Wilson here.
Yeah.
Is that what would you have done at the 3?
I would take Garrett Wilson because Garrett Wilson is my 101 right now. And so I love Garrett Wilson. I think he's the safest player in a down class. And I would have taken him there, especially just with the value there. Now, if you need running back, Hall's not bad. But this is kind of the consensus 5, I'll be honest. So you see Garrett, Hall, and Spiller. Those are the 5 guys that are there. And when I've seen rookie drafts, people are just not going to do it before. They're just not going to draft these guys, these quarterbacks before the draft because we just don't know how they're going to get valued.
That's right. I think that's the hardest spot to tell right now, where they're going to go, if they're going to potentially even be able to start this year. What do you think of Brad's comparison of Treylon Burks to Kyle Pitts?
I mean, it just depends what he runs. If he runs a 4.4 at the combine, then we're going to be talking about him as a unicorn. I do think there's some question marks about his route running ability. I think that offense limited him a little bit in college. But if he can run a 4.4 at the combine and he looks great, I mean, that's something to say. I hope he's a little better than Pitts. He actually scores touchdowns this year. But if he does do that, then that's a value.
So we saw those 3 wide receivers come off the board first. Then we saw Breece Hall and Isaiah Spiller with the next 2 picks at the running backs here. I think you could – I've seen pretty much some way, shape, or form Breece Hall, Isaiah Spiller, and Kenneth Walker. And those are the next 3 that go.
Yeah.
Now, a buddy that I'm good friends with that works at the 33rd team says he has Brian Robinson as his number 2 running back. Do you think that's a little too much?
Bro, Brian Robinson is 27 years old. So if we're going to be honest, his first year of college is 2017. There's a reason why he looked so big last year in college. And the reason why he looked against he was going against young men is because he is that kind of there. I don't see Brian Robinson doing that. I think he's very limited as a running back.
Not a good pass catcher is he?
I mean, he's okay. I just, the age, the everything, it just worries me. When you're looking at kind of what he is as a running back, I would not draft him that high. There is just no way. And then let me pick real quick.
All right, so we had Malik Wells as our first quarterback come off the board. And then we have another wide receiver go. And now it's Kevin's turn. And who's he going to go with? Got Jay Williams out of Alabama. He's the consensus, I believe, number 4 wide receiver too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, some people have him as their wide receiver 1
Do they
before
really?
even after the injury. Ah, man, this is a tough spot. See, I'm gonna tell everybody out there that's watching, like if you're at the 109 and like I'm gonna reach real quick, but if you're at the 109
Mm.
in a
Mm.
draft, and you're there, I would consider moving anything from the 109 on for a 2023 straight up. Like I wouldn't even want anything else. Like just give me a 2023 first, and I'll move the 109 through the 112 easily, just straight up, because I don't like anything after that drop off. I took Corral because I do like Corral, but he's the biggest unknown of this class. We talked about it on the podcast with David Royale recently. Like he has a huge combine coming up. If he plays well, he can move himself in the top 15, or we could see him drop to the second round to like Detroit or something like that. So it is interesting to see how these guys kind of shake out.
As it stands today, is he your QB1?
No, I mean, are we talking fantasy or real life? Which one are we talking?
Let's go for the real life angle.
For real life, he's my QB2. I have Hal as QB1, Corral as QB2, and then I have, I believe that next is going to be Pickett-ish, just kind of in that area. Like it kind of just depends. I don't see those guys kind of being there. Willis is my QB5 in terms of real quarterbacks.
Interesting. Okay. That makes sense. So we saw the top 4 quarterbacks kind of pretty much go in the back end of the draft here. Like the Ohio State receiver Olave. It's Olave or Olave? Olave. Going at the 10th pick right there. Back up to the number 1 spot with Jacob. And he goes Mr. Strong out, and he's again the consensus top 5 or the 5th quarterback I see from most sites, Carson Strong. Do you like him taking his quarterback there?
I would have taken Ritter. If you're going to reach on a quarterback in this area, I like Desmond Ritter in terms of tools. We talked about him too. I like Carson Strong. I've been on Strong for like 2 years. We talked about Debbie before the show, and now I like him, but he had a terrible Senior Bowl. Talk for that he didn't want to go over the offense. He didn't look great, and he really reminds me of Joe Flacco in a way, and also like Big Ben with his attitude. And can that work? I hope so, because I like the kid. But I probably would have did Desmond Ritter just because, even though there's question marks, I think his ceiling is higher because all the tools that he has. But I probably would have went running back. There's a running back that I would have went there, and he hasn't gotten drafted yet. So I don't want to tell you because I don't want you to draft him.
Okay, I'm going to go to my own rankings for my next pick here.
There you go.
Actually, no, I probably only can take 1 wide receiver. So let me reconsult my rankings for a second. And we go to the next player that's not a wide receiver I can grab here. That's one of the things difficult since we're only filling out 4 spots. All right, you know what I'm going to do, Kev? Because I want somebody. I'm planning out how I'm going to map out my picks here, and this may be a little bit of a reach, but I'm going to do it.
No, I like that pick.
Just because I like some of the running backs here. I'm not necessarily reaching for Brian Robinson, but I was looking. I have, as it stands right now, Dameon Pierce as my RB4. Kyron Williams was just taken as my RB5, and I have a couple. I have Tyler Alligator, or how you say his name?
Tyler Algier.
Algier, thank you, from BYU. See, I'm learning how to pronounce all the names.
Now it's bad when I'm freaking telling you how to pronounce names.
Guys, for those that are looking into all these rookies for the first time, like I pretty much dove in last night. I know the players, like I'm starting to associate colleges and their names, but the pronunciations are still coming. And
welcome. Yes. I'm going to say, Christian got George Pickens at the 204. That's a hell of a value. Like, I love that pick. Like, George is going to be one of those guys that's going to go way too late, and he's going to be a value in that area. Like he is one of the best prospects in this draft. If he has a good combine. I mean, he was injured ACL, but if he can show out there, I think it'll be fun.
Do you have George Pickens or do you have Bell higher? Because in my rankings, you have Pickens higher.
Yeah. Just based on athleticism. I like Bell, but I've always been down on Bell for 2 years in the Debbie area. I've always been they call me the hater. They call me a hater.
He seems kind of like somebody that maybe doesn't excel at, or he's not like excellent at or elite at one thing, but he seems like he's, just from what I was watching last night, he seems like he's a very solid player. David Bell does.
He's solid, but will he have a release? Will he have yak ability? I think the one thing about Pickens that people fail to understand is like he was playing with Stetson Bennett, and I know the joke car is Stetson Bennett's better than he was. He really wasn't. but he had an A dot, or he threw to, I think, 40 or 50% of his passes went under 10 yards. So when you're looking at that, that's not going to do well with Pickens, especially because he's a big play threat. And so that's why you're going to see that down part. And he has some maturity issues as well.
You went with Rashad White as your running back in the second round. Are you high on him, the guy, Mr. Guy to Arizona State? I watched him last night, just looking some stuff on him. He seems like a pretty, if you're going outside the top 3, I've seen him ranked as high as 4 from a couple people. Are you high on him?
Rashad is the guy that I'm going to take after the top 3. I would actually I'd take Rashad over Kenneth Walker, just because based on value. I think in the first and second, I think he's the best pass catching back in this class. People forget too, from an analytical profile, the one thing you're going to see is because he played junior college for the first 2 years, he's not going to check some boxes because he only had 2 years of production at Arizona State. But what he did produce, he looked good. And then you're also going to talk about his pass catching ability, which he is the best pass catcher in this class. He's a good runner. I think he can fit a role. Like if you're looking for Elijah Mitchell kind of ish, that guy that can kind of come in and find a job, I think that's what you're looking for. And if you can get him at the 209, I think that's not a reach, because now you're going to start reaching a little bit with some guys.
Yeah, and we're going to see as it kind of keeps playing. I think we're at the point with the quarterback position where you're pretty much punting at it. So
yes,
yeah. So I think many like myself who have not taken one will just take one in the 4th round at this point. I would say the drop off to me seems like, I mean, you talked about Ritter out of it's Texas A&M or Cincinnati. Yeah.
Come
on. He seems like he's kind of the last one you could maybe hope for. After that, I haven't even seen others' names even talked about in most circles as somebody that could even potentially contribute at all. So
Bailey Zappi from Western Kentucky. Like if you were gonna really take a flyer on a guy like in the 4th, which I wouldn't do, I would take a flyer on some running backs that maybe could get production as starters. But if you were gonna take a flyer on a quarterback that you think there, I think Zappi from Western Kentucky, he broke Joe Burrow's records last year, passing yards and touchdowns. He could be that guy that you maybe slip in there. And Ellaby from Western Michigan, he could be a guy too, if you wanted to. But they're going to be backups.
That makes sense. Kev, at my next pick here, I'm looking at a running back, and I'm deciding between the 2 guys I watched last night that I think are now becoming quickly my favorite guys, and that would be Pierre Strong Jr. and it would be Jerome Ford out of Cincinnati. Those 2 guys, I was just mesmerized with stuff I was watching. Jerome Ford seems more of like just the physical. He fits it, but I got to tell you, man, Pierre Strong looks like an NFL running back. Like just the cuts he's making, what he sees, he lets the line, sets up his blocks. He takes what's there. He seems like he knows how to be a running back rather than an athlete. And that's what I really like about him. How do you feel about Pierre Strong?
Yeah, I wrote about him on Fantasy Pros for my Shriners Bowl kind of update, and I said that he's a sleeper that everybody needs to know back in early February. I like him. He went to South Dakota State, and he measured in 5'11", 203, so he hit that magic number of a 203, or 200, which you'd like to see. He had 600 yards rushing last year and 18 touchdowns. He's a natural athletic runner. He's a guy that really kind of does those things. Early 3rd is a little early. I know you wanted to get your guy though, so good job. If he was going to the 4s, which he usually was, I would love it. But for me, it's draft capital. If he doesn't get drafted day 2 and he goes to late day 3 or middle day 3, then I'm going to be concerned about it. But I like him. Like he can do it, and he showed kind of burst in those types of things you'd like to see. I like Dameon Pierce, who Alex got there at the 305. He is solid. I would say you talked about Jerome Ford. The one thing I'll talk about with Ford is he's smaller than what he is listed at. So he was listed at 220, 225 at Cincinnati, and he came in under 210. And that's a big red flag for me based on his speed, because if he's not at 220 and at a 4.6, then that's a problem, because now you're talking about an under 210 guy at 4.5, 4.6, and that's not something that I want in the NFL.
I thought I saw somewhere that he ran closer to like a high 4.3s, low 4.4s.
There is no absolute, and I will pay you $1,000 if he ran that at the combine. There is zero chance that's happening. Zero.
Okay, well that's definitely a big difference in his profile. So
yeah, you got to be careful with the numbers they throw out there sometimes. I don't see that, and if he's only at that under 210 mark, I get concerned about him. I like him, but these profiles, they just they don't hit all the time.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. You get to find out a little bit more about these guys. Like, Dameon Pierce just seems like just a bruiser. Yeah, and these other guys, like
Yeah,
Ely, I was watching too, and I
too
saw some
small.
comparisons to Austin Eckler, just the way he runs. He's a small guy, but breaks a lot of tackles. So maybe where Toby got him, I feel like. I mean, you might know better draft capital
Oh
on maybe
shit,
it's a
I'm on the
fourth or
clock.
fifth
My
round
bad.
pick, but
My bad, everybody.
it's okay. I was distracting you, so you'd make a mistake.
Yeah. See, I didn't even pay attention. Now I'm gonna be scrambling here.
Where is
Hmm.
Kevin gonna go? Where is he gonna go? Is he
See
gonna
now.
get? He needs his wide receiver.
Yeah. I'm gonna reach real quick because I'm right out of time. But I mean, I don't hate this pick with Shakir. He went to Boise State, and he could be okay in terms of kind of value, what you're looking for in terms of the draft and going there. I don't hate that. I like James Cook at the 310. That's a good pick. I think the thing with Ely, like you were talking about, he's just so small. It's hard for me to draft small running backs. I was kind of big on Kenneth Gainwell before he opted out, and then he was been basically the NFL treated him like a sub 200 running back. And I gave they don't draft those guys high. And I think you've seen a shift with how they kind of view running backs in the NFL. They go after big guys. You're looking at 220, 225. That's really what the NFL is looking for. So that's what I kind of tend to go towards as someone who does Debbie a lot is if you don't hit those measurables, you're pretty much a no draft for me. And he's a no draft, just like Kenny Pickett is a no draft for me as well.
Kenny Pickett's a no draft for you.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
not touching that profile. No way.
you think he's at the bottom of your list compared to a guy? I've heard a lot of trash about Sam Howell and people just saying he's like a Baker Mayfield kind of guy out. So you think Pickett is going to be worse than Howell?
I mean, obviously landing spot dependent. I have to see where that goes. But I mean, just with Pickett, 5-year guy. Remember, his freshman year was 2017 as well. The small hands is a real deal. I know everybody makes fun of it, but that dude's got the smallest hands of the quarterbacks. And I think and his gloves, those type of things. I'm pretty much out on Pickett because he's one of those guys where if I'm going to draft him, then that's I think a draft him ceiling for me, and I'm not going to do that based on risk. So I'll just move on. If he hits, fine, but I don't like his profile, and so there's just certain guys that I just stay away from, and he's definitely one of them. Just like Rondale Moore is someone I stayed away from. There's a lot of guys, little profiles that I just stay away from.
I'm interested to hear your thoughts on Samir White versus James Cook. You see some places where people have Samir White close to their top 6, 7, 8 guys, and then other places where Samir White is way down and their RB, close to RB 15. And I see some sites with Zamir White ahead of James Cook. Where do you stand between which one you think is going to be a better pro?
I think Zeus, baby. Zamir White used to be, he was a top prospect, and he tore his ACL and then the same knee twice. Zamir is going to be touchdown dependent. I mean, I think when you're looking at goal line and looking at those type of things and in between the tackles, another guy that I think of like Larry Roundtree from the Chargers and that kind of touchdown dependent guy. That would be my opinion on where he goes in terms of kind of the prospects. I like Cook now again, sub 200 though. So depending on what the size is, I think that he has a much more receiving threat and he's just going to be faster and yak ability. So me personally, when I'm looking at based on how I would draft them, I would draft Cook. If you can get Cook at the 310, I think that's a good value. Really, what you're doing in these third and fourth rounds, looking for a running back that can start somewhere. And if you can find a running back that maybe can spot in and start based on the value, then I think that's what you look for.
I know this is kind of at the top of your head. If you could pick the best landing spot for a rookie running back of any team right now, which spot would it be? Is it in Atlanta? Is it in Arizona? Is it in Houston, Seattle? Where do you think is like, oh my God, whoever lands there, I think that's who is probably going to be the best running back of this class just based off their landing spot.
I hate landing spot just because I look at what happened. Remember CEH? You and me have talked about CEH plenty of times in the show. Like, and I didn't draft him because of a talent. But if I had to like pick a spot, I don't think it's Miami. I know people are kind of on Miami. I know McDaniels is coming there, but I do think that they're going to do the rotation stuff, right? So when we're looking at kind of how Shanahan uses his running backs, I don't think that's a smash grab. I still think Atlanta is a good spot, right? Like if they get a guy in there, it just depends on what they do with Cordero Patterson. Are they going to bring back Cordero Patterson? I think that's the question mark. So to me personally, like I like Atlanta if I had to pick. I think the Bucks is a sneaky landing spot too, because if Fournette leaves and then you have kind of that area.
Ronald Jones is out too.
Yeah, and if Ronald Jones leaves as well, so I've seen some spots where like Kyren going to the Bucks. I'm not as high on Kyren as some people, but if he goes to those spots, then you're looking at, hey, maybe he's going to get the usage, and it's all about usage. That's what people need to do. I'm going to draft one of my favorite guys here, Cole Turner from Nevada. He's my tight end 3 right now. Former wide receiver turned tight end. He put on 20 pounds of muscle going from his sophomore to junior year. All he does is score touchdowns. I think he's a steal in the 4th round if you can grab him there, because I think he fits prototypical NFL.
Who's your top 5 tight ends in order?
So I got McBride, Weidemeyer, and I will say this about Weidemeyer. I do think I like Weidemeyer. Weidemeyer might be one of those guys that we talk about as being a very, very good NFL tight end, but not necessarily one that translates very well to the fantasy perspective, right? So like he does a lot of great things well, but he doesn't necessarily have that fantasy upside that you like, where I think McBride does. And then I have Likely. I know you talked about Likely from Coastal Carolina. I've been on him. He was a wide receiver turned tight end as well. Basically, if you can't play wide receiver, you just change your position to tight end now. That's really what they do, and it's funny how that works. I love Cade Otton from Washington, so he would be in there, and then Cole Turner. I do think those guys are there, and then Jelani Woods from Virginia. He's a sleeper for everybody to know about. The man is huge. He's like 6'7", 280. He crushed the Shrine Bowl. I mean, he's a massive man. So keep an eye on Jelani Woods as well.
It's a good list of tight ends, and this is probably the quickest mock draft we've ever done. We finished this one in under 30 minutes, 4 rounds, nice and tidy. As we look through this mock here, Kev, I know, it's the roster construction is going to be a little weird because the people that didn't take quarterbacks are going to be very weak there. But looking at these teams, is there anybody that stood out to you that actually followed the rules? I'm looking at Christian and Alex, who didn't take a quarterback or a tight end and just took
You
their
don't have to.
favorite.
You just take whatever you want. This is a rookie draft. You guys can take whatever you want. I like the build though. Which team do I like?
Yeah.
Let me look here. If some of these guys said so, Ben drafted Willis at the 107. So I think when we're thinking of Malik, if he gets top 15 draft capital, even 1st round draft capital, he's the 101. So if you're looking at 101 based on that value, I think Willis is a great value there. Christian Watson is someone that's coming on to rest of the Senior Bowl. I have my concerns about him, but at the 207, that's not a bad reach there. Mechie was going to be probably a 1st or 2nd round guy. He had a down year this year. He had his injury. And then Zonovan Knight is someone who could do well. He just didn't get the usage at NC State. The coaches there just did not like the guy. He can score. He can do well. So like as a whole, I think that class, I like that draft. And I like kind of how he kind of fit his roster there.
Yeah, no, I think it's pretty good too. I kind of like, I know that both Christian and Alex's were with quarterbacks and tight ends, but I like how the 2 wide receivers and 2 running backs that they got.
Yeah.
I think they got, I mean, obviously I overdrafted Pierre Strong just because I wanted to take him, but I have Dameon Pierce as right now as my RB4, getting him where he did. And Algier, I saw, was a converted linebacker, and now he's a running back. And we saw how that kind of worked out for Javonte Williams. And
yeah,
he's someone that's I've seen a lot of people are starting to put as like a sleeper for them, as kind of rising up draft boards for running backs. How do you feel about Algier?
Algier's okay. He's a no-star guy coming out of high school, so he was definitely someone that definitely developed. He's got to go to a zone scheme, running scheme. So a lot of kind of landing spot dependent on him. He's not really a pass catcher though, and I think that he's okay. Like in terms of this draft, I would have probably went Strong, Pierce, Cook, and maybe even Ty Chandler. Herms grabbed Ty Chandler there. I like Ty Chandler. Ty Chandler actually at Tennessee and North Carolina, he showed some oomph. He's probably the best kid in the Shrine Bowl. So like I would probably take those guys over Algier because it's such a landing spot dependent for him, where he gets to that zone run blocking scheme. But to be honest, like this class isn't good. I hate people. I mean, I just want to break it down for people. Like it's a class that's going to struggle in terms of, are you going to get the value? Or are you going to have to reach on some guys? And I think obviously some guys will hit, but if you can kind of move around, get some different pieces in the rookie drafts, don't move your picks yet. I think that's the move. And then you look for, okay, can this guy get some immediate? So like, I think of like Larry Roundtree. I know you like Larry from this last year, the Chargers. Like you look for those guys that like are going to get that backup role and could maybe spot duty and do these things. I do think the Cowboys are going to draft a running back. So as a Cowboy fan, I could see them drafting someone in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round. If they do, that might be a guy that I kind of target, because I do think they're going to get rid of Zeke after next year, not this coming year. And then Pollard people think Pollard is the next guy. He's not going to be that next guy. So now you're looking at maybe you can have some value you can trade. So what I would say is that third and fourth round, look for running backs that you can increase your value then move. Probably not going to stay on your roster, but it can move.
I mean, really interested to see how this draft process plays out, the combines, to see who starts rising up. Because I'm going to be honest, Kev, like I mean, I like doing mock drafts, but I'm really liking to kind of dive into these rookies, get to follow them at the combine to see how they do, see who stock starts going up, who starts coming down, and ultimately eventually see their landing spots. But this is like you said, maybe it's not the most exciting group, but anytime you get an incoming crop of guys
Yeah.
and people that are potentially gonna, win people fantasy championships, guys that are gonna burst onto the scene, it's cool to find out about these guys early. And I think doing these rookie mock drafts are really good for that. You get to draft these guys, and maybe you don't know that much about a player when you draft them, and then you start watching more about them. You look more into their profiles, and then you start gaining more opinions about these guys. So I think this could be the first of many rookie mocks that we do the rest of this offseason.
Yeah, and it's only going to get better as the combine goes. We know the numbers as people kind of come and go in terms of the prospects, as like we know all of those things. I think it'll get better once the quarterbacks we find out their landing spot. I mean, that's really what it is. And then you're reaching and you're deciding, okay, which one do I kind of want to grab in this top 8? And I think that's the key is where those quarterbacks go is going to basically shape everything.
Yeah, and it's a matter of time. Time will tell. Kev, what should the people know as we wrap up this rookie mock? What is the piece of advice you want the audience to be left with?
You know, for as far as like how you value these guys, and when we're looking at kind of how the draft went, just be fluid. Don't trade picks yet. As it gets closer, you always kind of look and see what teams need quarterbacks. And if you're at the 101 or the 105, if you're at the 101, I'm moving back, and I'm gonna try to accumulate as many picks as I can and go there. And I know everybody says like the next class is better. But the 2023 class is loaded. Like when you're looking at prospects and where you can kind of shape your teams, that's where you go. And right now, me personally, at the 106 or on, even I mean, I said the 109, but even at the 106 or on, I would trade the 106 straight up for a random 23 first, and I have no idea what it's going to be because I just believe in the talent from the 23 class, and I think that's how I kind of shifted it there. But I'm in a lot of dynasty leagues, and I maybe have 2 or 3 first round picks left because I traded them all during the season because I knew what this class was going to look like. So I think that, be timid there. Don't reach on running backs in this class. Don't reach on quarterbacks. Be careful with kind of who you're going there, and always follow the draft capital because that's going to be the most telling thing.
All right. Couldn't agree with you more. All right. On that note, we're going to wrap this one up. Thanks everybody who drafted with us. We appreciate you guys hopping in the mock. Everybody that watched the video on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, wherever you saw this stream, we appreciate you guys. Make sure you like it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, the Triple Play YouTube channel, if you're not already. Leave any comment down below on future mocks you want to see. If you want to comment how nice Kevin's hat is, you want to say it's fresh, go ahead and leave that comment down below too, because all the comments help the YouTube algorithm. And if you want more great this talk, you can check us out. Of course, all the great Devy stuff on the Triple Play YouTube channel. And of course, the stuff that Kevin does besides Triple Play, you can check it out. The Devy Royale, they break down strictly Devy stuff over there. A lot of great YouTube Devy content over there. Just look for that symbol. You'll find it. All right, guys. Until the next one, we'll catch you guys soon.